and welcome to Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast? Here on that hashtag show, I am Yael Teagle. I am joined by my amazing panel. Hello, Toni.
Hi, it's me again. I get to go first. Exciting.
I just want to throw off Sarah. And Chris is also here. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Today, I'm so excited. We are discussing the iconic, the historically relevant, the really messed up, if you go back and rewatch it, Glee. That's right. Here's what you missed on Glee. I want to tell you before do you guys sing? Can you guys do the Glee?
Yeah.
Glee.
I love it. Beautiful. My voice doesn't go that high. Before we jump in, we may have young listeners who may not know what Glee is. So let me tell you what Glee was about. It was a musical dramedy that aired on Fox from May 19th, 2009 to March 20th, 2015. Glee centered on a high school show choir known as a Glee Club in the fictional William McKinley High School in, was it Lima or Lima, Ohio? I think they said Lima, but I'm pretty sure it's Limo. Anyway, Will Schuester, played by Matthew Morrison, takes over the Glee Club after the former teacher, Sandy Ryerson, played by Stephen Tobolowsky, was fired for inappropriate contact with his student. This should be the first warning that this show was messed up. With a ragtag group of misfit teenagers, Will attempts to restore the Glee Club to its former glory while tending to his developing feelings for his coworker, guidance counselor, Emma Pillsbury, played by Jayma Mays, as well as defending the Glee Club's existence from the conniving cheerleading coach, Sue Sylvester, played by Jane Lynch. A major focus of the series is the students of the Glee Club, their relationships as couples, their love of singing and desire for popularity coming into conflict due to their membership in the low-status club, and the many challenges of life in high school and as a teenager. That is what Glee was about. Chris, you're making a face. Do you disagree?
No, I think that's what it was. I just think that it's so interesting hearing a summary about Glee because it just feels so like detached and top down. It just doesn't feel like it encapsulates the messiness, both intentional and unintentional, of the character dynamics and the writing.
Yeah, so tell me, and maybe our listeners who might be listening who are not familiar, what made Glee a gay show? What made it something that matters to and is relevant for our podcast?
Well, let me start first with providing even more context about why the show kind of became... Glee was everywhere for a moment. For about 2 years of the first 2 years of its existence. It was just everywhere, ubiquitous, right? So they did this thing where they released the pilot episode in May. They didn't start airing the rest of the season until September. So for the entire summer, people were just completely excited just off of a pilot episode. And you had merch showing up in Hot Topic and different stores like that. Pilot episode is the one where it ends with Journey's Don't Stop Believin', which has kind of become like the signature track for the entire series.
Like they literally put Journey back on the map.
Right. So, and
I'll just say that.
Well, also at this time, NBC's The Sing-Off was coming around this year. So there was also a resurgence in acapella. And I think it was a couple years later, Pitch Perfect was released. Yes. Smash was also on.
Smash.
Point is that Glee really did begin this resurgence in performance-based, musical-based entertainment. It's a show about high school kids, about teenagers, people who don't know who they are yet, who are making mistakes, who are being intentionally mean to each other a lot of the times just because they're lashing out, people who are dealing with real issues that we in the real world are actually facing, and they're trying to approach it with a sense of not just care, but also complexity. And that was always appreciated. I love that. And especially a Glee Club, a show about a Glee Club centered on the nerdy kids, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be just the kids who have no other place to belong in. They don't belong with the jocks. They don't belong with the art kids. They're just the random, just loners that don't really have anywhere to be. It was really the underdog show. And we ate that shit up earnestly, sincerely. It's just, unfortunately, the show didn't manage to maintain that earnestness and sincerity. And it really did take a turn in, I think, we're all on the same page for the worse. And it just kind of became something else entirely. And at that point, it just was almost cynical by the time that it ended. So I do love the show, but that's why I think I have so much to say about it, because it's like when it goes wrong, it just feels like a betrayal of all the good stuff that happened.
It reminds me, just something you said about the underdogs and how everyone related to it. It reminds me of, I believe it is a joke in the 21 Jump Street movie, where the like traditionally loser loner kids were considered cool. And I believe Channing Tatum's character was bullying someone and everyone was upset about it. And he says, ah, damn Glee. Like, I think that it seeped into everything else, which I think is so interesting.
Yeah, it was absolutely, I think the reason why it's a gay show is because they really did put gay characters at the forefront. And because it was a long form television series, you had the ability to actually flesh these people out into complicated characters instead of just, utilizing them for jokes and gags and one-liners here and there and just make them supporting characters, because it was a completely ensemble cast. I think if you asked anybody who was the star of that show, you're going to get a different answer depending on who you're talking to. Everybody had their own favorite. Everybody had their own, favored pairing, their favorite stories, but those changed, depending on where you were watching, if it's season 1 or season 2, or even the later seasons, even though I don't think there's a lot of good things to say about the later seasons. That's irrelevant. I just think that it was great to see a show that was actually making good on the promise of, we're going to have these gay and queer and underrepresented characters that you usually don't see on a primetime show like that, and allow them to literally take the spotlight. I loved it for in that regard, and I think it is relevant to talk about it, especially on this show.
I think for me, it just felt like it really was very honest about how brutal high school can be for people, like me, people who were nerdy and people who enjoyed music, while everybody was kind of in this cultural place of like not wanting to care too much and wanting to be cool and wanting to be all that. Every episode had a theme and they picked songs based off of that theme. And I do think that even though it's very like not subtle about it, it was also very pointed and purposeful. And I mean, I talk all the time about how I think Glee really helped kind of immortalize a lot of really important music that maybe young viewers like us would not have known about, because they did take music from all genres, like musicals, rock, pop,
rap.
Yeah, rap.
Yeah, unfortunately, rap.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately, rap.
I think
that's not a drag on the genre. It's just the fact that it was always Will Schuester, the white
singing,
older character, the white middle-aged character doing that, and it was
that's
just
the
like,
thing that they did well, was that they became self-aware, and every time he rapped, it was uncomfortable, and they made sure that they let us know that they knew it was uncomfortable. There was, I think, the third Britney episode, they made a reference to being like, we are scraping the bottom of the barrel because we have already covered Britney twice. I also think in the character of Sue Sylvester, there's a little bit of truth in that whole lot of exaggeration. And that little bit of truth is people in, I'm going to make a generalization here, middle America, where sports are more important to them than musical theater and the arts.
Yes.
There are people like this that exist, and that I think that was the place where her character was supposed to be coming from. And had they not taken it into this Wicked Witch of the West area, maybe it would have played more realistic, but it became quite exaggerated in a way that made no sense, because she physically abused. Sorry, the character of Sue Sylvester would push children into lockers.
Right.
I remember that. That was funny. See, bad. Look at that. I've been indoctrinated. No.
I mean, I'll just say for me, I learned a lot about myself and music through that show. I'm just thinking about so many of the covers that, like, I think everybody could say that, like, oh, I think this cover actually was better than the original, or like this cover was the one that did it for me. Like Valerie.
Oh my,
yes.
like Valerie was like the icon, was so iconic and really put Nye Rivera on the map. I think for everybody, it was like, oh, okay, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty Unpretty, the mashup between My Fair Lady and TLC.
Yes.
Right.
That entire sequence with Quinn and Rachel, so great.
And also, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that I do identify a little bit with Rachel Berry, and also Glee is what gave us Harry Shum Jr. Can't be mad at that.
That's so true. I'm also going to give it props for showing one of the things I want to see on my TV is body diversity. We did have characters of varying sizes. We did have disabled characters. Eventually, there was an actually disabled actor playing the disabled character. We did also have a character with Downs. We had a beautiful, actually diverse cast.
Oh my God, wait. This reminds me of something, Yael. A guy from my chemistry class in high school, he actually was casted to be on the deaf Glee team on Glee.
Amazing.
Let's find out that guy's name.
I did not remember this until just now. I was like, wait a minute, that's him.
So yes, this show broke a lot of ground. That said, there was a lot that was bad. Let's talk about that.
Where do we start? How do we start? I don't even know. Like, what? Somebody give me something to talk about.
You wanted to start with Coach Beast.
Okay, let me tell you that as someone who has always appreciated masculine women, because as a little girl, I was always constantly being told that I was not feminine enough. I wasn't being a girl the right way. And when I saw somebody like Shannon Beast, played by Dot Marie Jones, who was brought in to take over as the football coach for the high school, right? And they were actively dealing with how uncomfortable everybody was with the fact that the biggest, toughest, strongest, most physically imposing person in the school was a woman. Like, that felt really real and vulnerable. And then once we got to know the character, because at first the character is really defensive, you know, they're not trying to get to know anybody and make friends because they are aware of the fact of they've had a lifetime of just negative interactions with people, just purely based on the fact that they are living in a body that the world does not think it's not their idea of what a woman should look like.
And also something that I have mixed feelings about is also, I remember seeing them, like remembering a sequence of them being in an abusive relationship or being in an abusive relationship.
I'm going to get to that. So then they go ahead and they actually manage to create relationships and connections with the Shannon Beast character. And she has these really wonderful, vulnerable moments where she even admits that, like, she's a virgin. She's never been kissed because this is not a body that hetero men, you know, find attractive. So she's never had luck in that department. And it's just really wonderful and great. And then we all think that everything is on the, you know, that it's looking up. She finds a boyfriend who then becomes her husband, right? They get married, right? If I'm not mistaken. He turns out to be abusive. It basically became this thing of like, we have this character that we love, this actress that we love, because Dot Marie Jones is a cisgendered woman. We've given her everything and she's now got her happy story. Let's destroy it in every way possible and take away everything. So that started when they've made the revelation in later seasons that Shannon Beast is actually a transgender man and is now wants to change their pronouns and start presenting as a man. I believe they start taking hormone replacement therapy. They changed their name from Shannon to Sheldon. And there's this great moment too with Alex Newell's character, Unique. They actually bring together a choir of over 200 trans actors and singers, which apparently everyone involved said that, like, this is amazing. I've never been in a room with over 200 trans people. So I absolutely love the show for just making that moment happen and for the people involved. But as a viewer, as someone who connected so strongly to Shannon Beast and their whole trajectory, it really felt performative. It felt like they were checking off a box. We need a trans character who is actively transitioning, and we don't want to go ahead and take the trouble to introduce a whole new person because it's not like there are more than 3 people working at this effing high school. Let's go ahead and change the one masculine woman into a man, and it somehow sends the message that all masculine women are somehow trans men in disguise. They just haven't realized it yet. I found that so disappointing for that character, and I don't want to take anything away from anyone who actually found comfort and representation in that character, but it's just the way that they handled it. There was literally no lead up into it. It just was very abrupt, and it just felt like they were just thumbing through the zeitgeist of just like, what can we do this week? What issue can we tackle? What's going to trend on Twitter this week?
That was the thing that bothered me the most about it, was that we had this story that was going in a direction of, here is a story. And they went, oh, wait, we need to do that other one. All right, take this person. We're not going to give any context or breadcrumbs or proper writing tools were just going to all of a sudden be like, and now this. So I agree. That one really bugged me. That one and the Sue twist of like, I was on your side all along. It's just all of these things that you're like, when did this? All of a sudden, you're going to tell me that I can't think of a good example. I was going to be like, all of a sudden, you're going to tell me that Shu really was a native Spanish speaker and a talented rapper. Like, no, you're not. You're not going to tell me those things. Those are false.
You know, like, obviously, I've seen better now. Kurt and Blaine was a very affirming couple for me to see. And I think it was for a lot of people. I think that was one of the couples that was earned. I always am on the fence about whether or not I should be happy, though, because at least I'm pretty sure that Darren Criss is not gay.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, he was, like, you know, he skyrocketed into fame because, like, he played a gay character.
And has gone on to play other gay characters.
Yes. Like, he wouldn't be anything without this show.
No.
If we want to look at the cis male gay characters, we have Chris Colfer as the only gay actor. Grant Gustin is also straight, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Criss is also straight. Karofsky was also straight.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 in 4.
Yeah, not great.
And then if we want to look at the queer women, both the actors for Britney and Santana, I believe, are straight.
Yes.
Who are the other queer women?
Sue was never confirmed to be.
Sue's always been portrayed as hetero, I believe.
Okay.
I've never seen her. So it's
I could have sworn she had a crush on a man at some point.
Yeah. So it's the one other case other than NPH playing Barney Stinson on How I Met Your Mother, where we have a gay person playing a straight character and that never changes. But there was never much given to her in terms of a romantic storyline, because that's just not the position that she filled on that show. And there was just a whole lot of straight cis people playing queer characters.
And was there anything else, any other characters you wanted to mention? Because I would like to also talk about how they handle race.
Let's talk about race.
Yes.
So on top of that, even the main characters in the show, the people of color specifically, were always the supporting characters and always put in the background unless they were given like something very specific for their episode. You know, like, I don't know, Mercedes developing an eating disorder. Or Mercedes losing to Rachel Berry, which I am still very heated about. I mean, like, was Tina and Mike, like, they barely got anything. Like, they barely got thrown a bone ever.
Yeah, they were misused a lot on this show.
Yes.
Harry got to dance all the time because they were like, he's a great dancer.
Because he was on Step Up
multiple times. He's a dancer. And it felt like they went, I guess we'll just let him dance and we don't have to give him a plot or lines or you know, anything, which is such a disappointment for anyone who's seen him in anything since. He's amazing.
Yeah, and also Jenna is a very talented singer.
She's an incredible singer and really got shafted.
Yes.
Both of them were treated really poor. I mean, you said it. All of the people of color were treated very poorly. They were supporting to the white cast. They were the funny sidekicks. And a lot of times they were more talented than the leads. And it reminds me of Pitch Perfect, where our team has to win because it's their movie, but they don't necessarily deserve it.
Yeah. And I will also say that I think the most prominent character that we see consistently is Santana. And I mean, I think that Santana is a great character, but also does it play into, you know, stereotypes of, like, you know, being a mean, fiery person?
I think spicy is the word that you're looking for. That's usually applied to Latino women. Because Santana was the hypersexualized character on the show. She was the one who was always, you know, actively having sex, even as a teenager, right? As a young teenager at that. And they made no qualms about doing that, which is not to say that young teenagers at that age can't have, you know, a grasp on their sexuality or are able to go ahead and experiment in that way. I think that's a healthy thing. But it's just the fact that there wasn't a lot of Latinx and Latina representation. So then when it falls just to one character and it just kind of seems to be them regurgitating the same things that we've seen over and over again, it's just like, well, shit. On the one hand, it's really great that they were able to kind of give us a character that we'd never seen before. I certainly haven't, and certainly not that young, where it's a unabashedly, or at least at a certain point, firmly a queer character that has finally come out, consequences be damned, has finally, come to terms with their feelings that they have for another woman and has let everybody know, and they're living their life authentically. And there's really not a significant change in their personality, who they are remaining true to themselves. So I think that's great. I just think, though, I always question the fact that I don't have the write-up of that writer's room. I'm willing to bet it's a mostly white writer's room, though, because the way they always framed Santana and Mercedes was that they were always mean and jealous of the Rachel Berry character. Yeah. And it's like, it just also feels like a very white response to women of color who are looking for their opportunities.
It also feels like a very white thing to do, to bring in fucking Christian Chenoweth, who I love, by the way, who I worship the ground she walks on, to sing a cover from The Wiz.
It's just
like, can we talk about oh
they
my
thought
God.
They were being so clever. They really did. I'm
not saying that she didn't sing it well, but I was like, oh my God, this seems like really disrespectful. Like, also.
Well, I'm glad that the show did become, to a certain level, self-aware. So that great scene where Santana is calling out Will Schuester for just, basically playing into these stereotypes, especially as the school Spanish teacher, which is like, oh dear God, he teaches Spanish. That's right. He's not just the Glee Club teacher. He's the effing Spanish teacher, Will effing Schuester. Like, Jesus. Okay. And then the fact that she's like, well, why did you even, and she calls him out, and it's perfect and it's wonderful. But then they don't really do anything more to actually provide more representation for that community. And it just is really frustrating. But I felt like, the cultural depictions, about her family not at first accepting her sexuality, especially her grandmother, her traditional Catholic grandmother, that felt real. That felt earned.
Yeah.
The fact that she did have some members of the family that were just, no, we love you and accept you no matter. Yep. That feels like a complicated experience that many people in the community have. I just, when we do talk about, like, is she still playing into tropes? Yeah, absolutely. You can still play into tropes, because there can be aspects of that character that can play into tropes, and you can still ground break and still be subversive in other areas. It's just, it didn't play all the way through. And there are parts that we should rightfully criticize and pick apart.
Mm-hmm. I think early on in the show, what it felt like they did was, like I said, I was excited for a diverse cast, but it really was we've got one Latina, we've got one Black person, we've got one Asian. Like, they just made sure that they had one of each, and we're like, we've got a whole set. And that's a start, and then you add more.
And that was fine, especially since they're in the middle of Ohio. And like, right. I'm not saying that there were like no Hispanic people in Ohio. There are, but it just like, okay, the town was always described as sort of like a rural, not quite suburban, kind of place. It's big enough to have its own coffee shop, but not really big enough to have like, its own mall. And I'm like, okay, I can jive with that. I can go along with that conceit. But just knowing that they tried so hard to be so representative of all these communities, and they just were like, we'll just stop short because...
Right, no, that's the thing. They didn't try hard.
Right.
They didn't. I mean, right. I think that it's okay to do one of each, because I understand that you need to keep the cast limited because money, and also like keeping things manageable with casting. But I think a good comparison that I just came up with is like, just think about the long arc that Kurt was able to have with his father and the very short arc that Mike was able to have with his father. Like, it felt very short and very like, obviously he's not as important of a character. And so, like, we don't need to show his dad until we need to fill time with the episode and have some sort of conflict.
We knew more about Brittany's cat than we knew about Mike's family.
Sounds about right.
Well, the cat did have its own show. It did have its own web show, so rightfully so.
I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there was this lost episode where Glee turned all the people of color into animals.
Oh, God. it just felt like they felt comfortable and confident about certain stories and certain characters. And at a certain point, they were like, oh, I don't know if I can really say that as someone who is not a person of color or is not a member of this community. And it's like, then maybe y'all should expand the writer's room.
Mhm.
Let's bring somebody in, more than one person. Let's bring people in who could actually help you do this. If you're trying to create an ensemble cast, you have to be able to do it in a way that doesn't make the story suffer, because that's what ended up happening. The story started to suffer. It just became
Oh
either
my God.
so derivative, or it
Yes.
just became like you're swinging really hard for the fences because you guys are trying, but it's just, this is not the move. This is not the
No,
thing to
like,
make your.
I will say that, like, I think besides the Loser Like Me, the original song that they made, another moment where I felt like the show really lost me and I didn't even realize that it lost me was the point when Santana, like, physically shoved Sue
Mm,
in that episode. Like,
mm.
I was like, I get it, but also, like, this is kind of getting a little bit too much for me. I don't know if you two feel the same way.
I think it's clear that they started taking just a little too much from real life, and it started cutting really close, not just underneath the skin, but just down to the bone. So it becomes this thing like, when Chris says that, like, it's not the characters that are working through the death of that character. It's the cast and the crew that's working through the death of an actual real person, but they're dressing it up as something else. And that's the same thing I could say for a lot of different instances and episodes where it's like, it's clear they're trying to work through something and they're trying to use the real life experience in order to make it.
Yeah, and that
And
alone
that's
is not
fine.
bad. That can be
Right.
beautiful.
But then when it just becomes like you're exploiting real
Yeah.
life things for the sake of, you're trying to dress up entertainment as art and social commentary, when really it's just become, you want to sing this song and you want to feature this character, and maybe you want to get a jab in about a certain character or a certain actor or a certain something that's happening behind the scenes. And it just kind of becomes like, where have we gone and why are we here? I don't understand what is the point other than just to keep this show going. I didn't understand them trying to move from focusing on a Glee club at a high school to now focusing on characters that are trying to make their way through New York. I was like, just make a whole different show then.
Yeah.
I didn't understand them trying to move
And then-
characters to other schools just
Yeah,
across
and then-
town.
And then
Like-
having to balance, like, seeing them in New York with, like, the new Glee club that nobody cared about. Nobody
and
cared
Glee
about.
Project was a whole and again, Glee Project is probably the most eloquent way that I could kind of describe what it is I'm trying to describe. You're trying to take people and their experiences and their identities and write them in. So whenever you get somebody from those shows like Alex Newell, who started on Glee Project, and they themselves have said like, well, yeah, I'm kind of, figuring out, my gender identity, my expression, my sexuality, and I'm dealing with all of that. And they're just inserting that right into the show. We're not going to go ahead and take the time to write something. We're just going to take your experiences and write this into the show because we think it's timely and relevant and you deserve to spotlight that. And it's like, okay. And unfortunately, yeah, Glee took a turn where they were like trying to keep the popularity that they had attained through Chris Colfer and Leah Michelle and the OG characters and actors by placing them in New York. Let's follow them as they go to New York. Why are they all in New York? You're telling me they all went to New York, every single one of them? Like, geez, like it was so contrived. It was so contrived and so forced that it just, at a certain point, I was like, I'm just watching this to get to the end just so that way I can say that I saw the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm really sad now.
All right, well, let's wrap this up with any final thoughts about Ryan Murphy, what he did, where that went, and any other wild stories that we think need to be brought up.
I have a lot of feelings about Ryan Murphy, but I am happy that eventually he helped Pose come into being ultimately on FX. And you even see that they have a little Glee moment in the first season of Pose.
I was excited to see more Ryan Murphy after Nip Tuck, but again, another show that started strong and then just quickly just became like a kitchen sink situation where let's do this shocking thing just because we can and we haven't done it yet. Glee kind of became the junior version of that, the family-friendly version of that. I am happy for the things that he was able to actually spotlight. Some of the things that we didn't get to in the good part of the conversation is I'm glad that they didn't shy away from conversations about bullying teen suicide. The whole Dave Karofsky thing, even though we have obviously an issue with straight actors playing gay characters, I love the fact that they actually went there and said, like, the bully is actually a closeted gay character and they are dealing with stuff and they are lashing out. There's not a lot of shows that would have gone there. They just would have made the implication in the subtext there. There's problematic aspects of that story and the execution.
Except that then they tried to have him date
right.
Miss Golfer's character. That Kurt. It just, no, why would he date his abuser?
Right. Well, because don't you know, if you put two gay people in a room, naturally they're just attracted like magnets. You know, haven't you seen an episode of Sex and the City? That's exactly how it works.
When Rachel like had to resign herself to like, you know, helping lead Glee Club at the end, I was also like, no, absolutely not.
I almost forgot about that.
This is a complete waste of time, an absolute waste of time.
I honestly think Ryan Murphy just like was not there for the last couple of seasons.
Pretty much.
It felt rudderless. It just felt like they were just trying anything and everything that they could stick against the wall. And if it stuck long enough, if it trended long enough on Twitter, they would keep it for the next week. But otherwise, they would just abandon it.
And to be fair, it's very clear when you watch a Ryan Murphy project, you can tell when he's not involved anymore. That happened with American Horror Story. It happened with American Crime Story. Like, you can tell when he's abandoned it to go on to his next project.
And it's such a shame.
Well, as you said, it was gay history. It is a part of history, and that takes us to some queer trivia. All right, I have quite a few questions ranging from just queer things to queer history to queer pop culture. Both Chris and Toni will be playing. All right, here we go. Question number 1. What is lesbian bed death? Neither of you know what lesbian bed death is?
I'm so sad that I don't know it. Is it just when you're in bed with your lover forever and you never leave?
No.
What?
I'm so disappointed in both of you.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I actually don't know. I can't believe I don't know. I've heard of this. I just don't know what it is.
Okay. So it is a term that was invented by researcher Pepper Schwartz to describe the supposedly inevitable demise of sexual passion in a long-term lesbian relationship.
Oh my God. Oh.
Number 2. Which of the following countries have legal same-sex marriage? Netherlands, Spain, Belgium, Canada, and South Africa.
Canada?
Chris, what do you think?
Netherlands.
You're all right. All of them. Netherlands, Spain, Belgium, Canada, and South Africa.
Yay.
All right. Number 3. In the TV show Ellen, where did Ellen DeGeneres' character come out?
In an airport.
Nicely done. Yes, in an airport. All right. Bonus question. In the show Ellen, to which actress did her character come out? You can't Google it. The answer
I know what she looks like. I know what she looks like. I don't remember her name.
It's Laura Dern.
Yes. God bless Laura Dern.
All right. This one I believe you both should know. The Birdcage is a remake of what French film?
La Cage aux Folles.
Yes. Nicely done. Okay, bonus question. Who plays the gay couple in The Birdcage?
Robin Williams and Nathan Lane.
Nicely done. Chris, have you not seen The Birdcage?
I tell
no,
you,
I did. I just
number
forgot.
Of Starina, okay? And how she just got back from safari and picked up a lovely muff. Yes, I will go through that entire movie. That's all I know about apparently gay trivia and gay history. I'm so ashamed.
It's a seafood chowder.
Fuck the shrimp.
All right, next question. Martin Luther King's right-hand man and organizer of the 1963 March on Washington was kept in the background because he was gay. What was his name?
James Baldwin.
No.
Damn it. Sorry.
His name was Bayard Rustin. Bonus question. What is the title of the film biography of gay civil rights leader Bayard Rustin? It is Brother Outsider. Okay.
I apologize for not knowing this too.
This is terrible. Oh my God. Chris, we're terrible.
All right, let's keep going. We're almost done. Where is the National Museum of LGBT History? Chris, I could read your lips on that one.
New York?
It's New York City. Keeping it going with our queer history. When were the Stonewall riots?
Was it 67?
Great guess. You're close.
66, 68.
69?
It was 69. It
That
was
was my
June
gut,
69.
The
and
number
I
69 has never let me down. Just kidding.
Right?
Right.
Where was the Stonewall Inn, if you know the city and the street? Chris? Toni? Do you know what city it was in?
Well, it's New York, right?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I was
yeah,
going to say
I
New
know that
York,
it's
but
it,
I
but
didn't
you
have a
asked-
street.
I was like, I don't know the
Christopher
street.
Street. Christopher
Oh.
Street.
Well,
Did I know that? Probably not.
now I'll remember it.
All right. Our last question is, who is Jean Manford? No guesses. So Jean Manford is a mother who marched in the New York City Gay Pride Parade in 1972 and is credited for starting PFLAG. And all of these
Oh.
questions happen to be courtesy of PFLAG Olympia.
Nice. Wow.
Yay.
Well,
How
that
did we
was-
do, Sarah?
that was thoroughly humiliating.
Seriously.
Toni
Yep.
wins with 4.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Congratulations.
4
That's
out of
okay.
10.
I still take the
I'm-
most pride in knowing Ellen.
That was impressive. Chris has 3, Toni has 4. I'm going to be honest. I would have not done great.
I'm so sorry to any older gays that are watching this. I promise that I will try to educate myself more.
Seriously. I'm thoroughly upset and embarrassed that I don't know more.
All right. Well,
Don't get
it
me
is-
canceled, guys.
it is time for our queer news. We have some headlines that we have been not really discussing all season, but we're going to talk about them now. So the trans community is under attack. If you have missed this news, I don't know where you've been. As of the beginning of April, the Human Rights Campaign has been tracking nearly 100 anti-trans bills that are being considered in state legislative sessions. Meanwhile, in February, there were 20 states targeting the trans community. By April 6th, the Arkansas state legislature passed HB 1570, the first bill in the US that effectively bans trans youth from transitioning. Specifically, it bans gender-affirming care for trans youth, making it illegal for clinicians to provide puberty blockers and hormone therapy. It is the third anti-trans bill passed this spring in Arkansas alone, and there are a dozen states with anti-trans legislation currently in contention. The bills differ. Some ban trans women and girls from competing on sports teams consistent with their gender identity. Some would restrict opportunities for medical care. Some have given care providers the right to deny trans patients treatment based on moral or religious grounds, but they all share a common theme: their attempt to limit and minimize the potential for trans youth to live normal lives. Last month, at his first joint address to Congress, President Biden made his stance clear, saying, quote, "To all transgender Americans watching at home, especially the young people, you are so brave. I want you to know your president has your back." Although his sentiments are appreciated, our community is under attack. And as a panel of cis people, it is important that we stand with our trans siblings. So I'm turning this to Chris and Toni, and I want to ask, what is it that we can do?
With the last year, we learned that there are different lanes and different ways to protest and to organize. You organizing and you protesting does not mean that you physically have to be the person that's at the protest, right? Because that's not always possible for a variety of reasons. You can decide to go ahead and be someone who's going to disseminate and share actual factual, information with people, whether it is getting the word out about movements and events and things like that. There are a lot of jokes to be made about social justice warriors, keyboard warriors. That helps people learn. Unfortunately, we are a completely online society now. You being a keyboard warrior might move the needle. It might help. If you have means to donate to organizations that have invested themselves into this work, do that. Take yourself to somebody, to your local representatives, into their offices, go to these meetings, go to these protests, write these letters, make phone calls, whether it is sharing information about, for example, with these anti-trans bills targeting trans youth. A lot of this is just rooted in a lot of ignorance. So many of these laws first start out at a very local level, right? It starts at one school, one group, one school board, or somebody who wants to feel like it's their job to protect the kids. That old chestnut. It's important to pay attention to elections and not just the general elections that pop up every 4 years. We've seen what can happen when we just largely ignore these every 2-year elections and these primaries and these very localized elections. If something is happening specifically in your state, I know for a fact that, more credence and emphasis is given to those who are actually from the state and actually reside within a specific state or county or wherever that representative is actually representing. There's so many things you could be doing, but it really does start with just paying attention and deciding to be politically engaged when big things like this are happening that are really going to have detrimental effects, especially on the most vulnerable of us. I mean, these are just kids. I mean, this is going to have real effects. So you could literally be saving lives just by deciding to just care. And I just urge everybody to do something.
With protests, I think it's really important to also think about that a lot of protest groups, I actually think that it is very important to also disseminate information about how to safely protest. And a very good example is making sure that your face recognition is turned off of your phone because police could confiscate it and access your phone by just holding it up to your face, and making sure that there's if things escalate, then there is water or milk to help with pepper spray. Also, running background support on people, almost running tech support, kind of like a team in a video game, checking in with people, and someone who's sitting at their computer might be able to know that something bad is coming way faster than someone on the ground. I think that's really important for people's safety that people don't think a lot about. Also, volunteering to watch voting places, as we did with, recently. Also, in regards to donating and volunteering, I just wanted to shout out a few places that I personally have donated to or worked with before or have raised money for. Vote Forward. They make it really easy for you to write letters to anything that is deemed important currently, specifically looking for grassroots places that do activate voters. That's the only way that we won the Senate seat in Georgia is by grassroots, on the ground, mainly Black women and femme-led organizations that went door to door asking people to give a shit and vote. Also, for trans-specific nonprofits and groups to donate to, I highly recommend the Okra Project, Glitz, the Marsha P. Johnson Institute, and of course, you can Google plenty of other groups like the National Center for Transgender Equality and the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund. Also, I've been using this since 2016, actually. I've been using the app called 5Calls. It's on both Android and iOS, so that shouldn't be a problem for anybody. It will tell you what issues are important right now and what you can call your representatives for.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. I'm also going to add some larger organizations that bare minimum to keep yourself aware of what's happening. You should be following on Instagram, for example, like the ACLU. Through that, you can find ways to write letters. I know that right now, Alabama and South Dakota need people to send letters to representatives. Also, Trans Law Center on Instagram. They're just all these organizations that are doing really great things. And bare minimum, pay attention, help spread information, educate yourself, educate your family. That's the bare minimum that you could be doing. And then if you have the money to donate, please do. If you have the time to make a phone call or send a text message or send an email, please do. And if you are able and willing, protest and help. There's just so much that can be done. And so we are asking you to do so. Well, on a lighter note, let's head over to our spotlight for today. So last episode, we spotlighted bow tie behavior, and we are still running a giveaway. You can enter to win one Lunch in Paris bow tie from Bow Tie Behavior by liking the post on Instagram, tagging a friend in the comments, and following these accounts. That is that hashtag show. My account, Chris's account, Toni's account, and we'll tell you what those are in just a sec. And Bow Tie Behavior, that is at bowtie_behavior. The deadline to enter this giveaway is May 24th. We will be announcing the winner on our May 28th episode. And Bow Tie Behavior is also offering a discount code for the rest of 2021. Use the code hashtag to get 10% off. That is HASHTAG for 10% off through December 31st, 2021. We also have discount code from Fluid Beauty. You can get 25% off using the code #show25. Those are our codes. Those are who we're spotlighting. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. And to do so, you need to follow us on Instagram. So with that, Chris, why don't you tell people where they need to follow you on Instagram?
Cool. Everybody can follow me on Instagram via OneWeedChris. That's one spelled out. And I'm also on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter most of the time. And I have a lot of other stuff coming up. I recently just did my charity show that I organized myself with Rock'em Sakura and Jimmy Wong for Hate is a Virus, and I'm really, really proud of it. If you find it, I hope you enjoy it because we had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you. And Toni, where can everyone find you on Instagram?
Yeah, you guys can find me on all social media at the Toni Sanchez. Toni with an I, Sanchez with a Z.
Perfect. And I'm Yael Teagle. I'm everywhere at Yael Teagle. That's YAELTYGIEL. You can find me talking about superheroes on Super Lady Hero Hour. You can find me talking about SVU on Law & Order S Review. And you can find me attempting to play video games on Twitch. That's it for us here at Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast? We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.